There's been a lot of discussion regarding the Toronto Raptors coaching situation. Now, it seems like the Houston Rockets are not after one, but two of our coaches. So we'll discuss that, as well as DeMar DeRozan speaking out on the Raptors playing game we have coming up against the Chicago Bulls, facing off against his former team, and a report or a comment that I did not think we'd hear. But we have an update on Otto Porter Jr.'s injury situation. So that and a whole bunch more we'll cover in this video. So before we jump into it, definitely hit that subscribe button if you're interested in staying up to date with everything surrounding the Toronto Raptors as we enter playoff season. But let's dive into the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is the Rockets wanting two Raptors coaches. Now, there's been a lot of chatter, as I said in the intro, about Nick Nurse potentially leaving this offseason, the league being interested, a lot of different teams being interested in picking him up, and the Rockets are a team that has been named by multiple sources as very intrigued by picking up Nick Nurse on the coaches' free agent market this summer if Nick Nurse were to decide to leave, because he is under contract for next season with the Toronto Raptors. But I digress. We all knew this, but there's also another coach the Houston Rockets are also interested in, as Shams of The Athletic came out and basically said that the Rockets are scheduling head coaching interviews with Golden State's Kenny Atkinson, Toronto's Adrian Griffin, Ime Udoka, Frank Vogel, James Borrega, and Raptors' Nick Nurse is expected to be a top target if he should become available. So that's interesting, right? We knew the Nick Nurse comments. It's coming from a lot of people, but now that's officially coming from Shams, who obviously is one of the most respected reporters in the entire NBA. But Adrian Griffin, also a guy that could potentially be on the move away from the Toronto Raptors, as he's a name that has been thrown out in a lot of potential head coaching vacancies, right? Adrian Griffin's on the short list for this team, short list for that team, and now it seems like he also could potentially get plucked away by the Houston Rockets if Nick Nurse were to leave. Or if Nick Nurse were to go, maybe Adrian Griffin would follow him the same way, Dwayne Casey's assistant, his name is slipping my mind right now, followed him to Detroit, right? I find that fairly interesting because, if Nick Nurse were to leave, if he were to go to a team like Houston, you looked at the betting odds. Obviously, Ime Udoka is the guy that's sort of leading the way as a potential replacement for Nick Nurse. Adrian Griffin is second on that list behind Nick Nurse behind Ime Udoka to replace Nick Nurse if he were to leave. So, I don't know. Interesting stuff there that his name's getting thrown out to these different teams, different organizations. Obviously, Ime is the target for the Toronto Raptors if Nick Nurse were to leave. If we did let go of Nick Nurse, Ime Udoka were to leave, I don't know if I'm that encouraged by the rest of the list of open coaching candidates. Obviously, Adrian Griffin, we haven't seen a great he hasn't coached a proper team in the NBA. He's an assistant coach, so we don't know his record or anything like that, what his philosophies will be. But if you look at the rest of that list, Frank Vogel, James Borrega, Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson would be interesting, especially for a developing team, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Vogel or Borrega coming in, so James Borrega can't speak right now. But let me know what you guys think about the Rockets trying to pluck away a couple of our Raptors head coaches. Next thing we're taking a look at is DeMar DeRozan speaks out on being in the playing matchup against Toronto. Now, people that don't know, everyone knows DeMar DeRozan is an absolute legend in Toronto. I know he got traded away. It seems like there's less and less people that are DeMar supporters. I still have a DeMar jersey up behind me on pretty well every single video. I got a DeMar picture up behind me. DeMar is a legend in Toronto. I don't care what anyone has to say about that, but DeMar sort of spoke on playing against his former team in this play-in tournament, a do or die game. Feels like Game 7, those play-in tournaments. I know there's not an insane amount of excitement, it feels like, around the fan base, just given how dull the last few games of the season has been, but I'm really excited for this game. It seems like DeMar DeRozan is as well, basically saying that was home for me. That was everything for me. The way they embrace me and everything, even if I try to, there's nothing I could ever possibly say that's wrong with Canada besides getting double taxed, which is obviously taxes are very high for NBA players when they play in Canada, but I digress on that point. DeMar DeRozan's shown a lot of love there. Also had this quote to say that I will never be a villain in Toronto. Talked about just talked about his history there in Toronto and this whole quote, this Chicago Tribune article, but had some high praise for the city. He said that the building, right, the Scotiabank Arena, it's going to be absolutely on rails for this play-in tournament. I know there's pictures of the Jurassic Park getting set up there in Toronto and all that. So DeMar DeRozan's ready for an exciting atmosphere. He's not going to come in and try to be, sticking it to his former team, his former fan base. Even though he's trying to win, he's trying to do all this, he still embraces the city, still loves Toronto and showing love to the city. And, he's our guy, right? DeMar DeRozan, whatever jerseys he's wearing, whatever, team he's on, will always be a Toronto Raptor, at least in my heart. And I think in the hearts of a lot of Toronto Raptors fans. So love to see DeMar DeRozan showing love to the team. And it's going to be interesting to see how this playing game goes. Because tomorrow, right, we need that W. Do or die. So we'll see how all that sort of stuff plays out. Next thing we're taking a look at is an Otto Porter Jr. injury update, which is something I did not expect to see. It almost was a bit of a meme, but obviously Otto Porter Jr. went down. He's been out basically this entire year due to a multitude of injuries, but a toe injury, a foot injury has kept him out basically since January. We thought he might return, but then he ended up getting season-ending surgery, but there was some speculation. There's, the end of the season, he's out till then. Playoffs, could he potentially return there? And Nick Nurse was asked about Otto Porter Jr. potentially returning to the lineup for the play-in, for the playoffs, and all that sort of stuff. And basically, his response was if he was making any progress, he is not. Stole that graphic from Yahoo there, but that's your update for Otto Porter Jr. He's not coming back, even though the season has ended, even though he did only have a toe injury, whatever he had, he's not going to be bouncing back. So fortunate stuff. The Raptors don't get a shooter, but do you guys think Otto Porter Jr. will return for next season if he's not made any progress? You'd think he'd be taking steps in the right direction with that injury. I don't even know what I'm getting at. We knew Otto Porter Jr. is not coming back. He's not trying to suit up this season after he won the chip. But finally, we have a topic of DeMarcus Cousins and Kevin Garnett giving some high praise to Scottie Barnes. Now, they were doing a little podcast together. DeMarcus Cousins also just signed with the team in Puerto Rico, I believe. He just signed with the team overseas. So congrats to him for getting a contract. He had some comments regarding him being a top 3 center. So maybe, DeMarcus Cousins' ball opinions right now, if he thinks he's a top 3 center in the NBA, a little bit out there. But he did have some high praise for Scottie Barnes and talked about how if he can get one of those mid-range shots rolling, if he can get his a little post hook, a little shot around the rim, he's going to be a pretty well unstoppable player. Kevin Garnett ended up agreeing with Scottie Barnes, the assessment there on Scottie Barnes. He adds those couple things to his game. It's going to be just a nightmare for the rest of the NBA. And Boogie Cousins also made a little pitch for himself to join the Toronto Raptors, I guess, as a mentor, as a player or whatever, saying that I could work with Scottie Barnes, get him a couple things, and he would just be absolutely unstoppable. So I don't know. I remember a few years ago, right? A lot of us were hoping DeMarcus Cousins would sign here. I know a lot of people still are thinking as a backup center he could provide some value and all that, but I don't know. Do you think the Raptors should bring in Boogie Cousins to sort of mentor Scottie Barnes? Let me know in the comment section below. But it's going to be an exciting game tomorrow. Hopefully the Raptors are able to pull it out, or we'll be reacting to it here. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.